Prince Andrew and Sarah Ferguson have finally broken their silence, and the royal walls may never recover. In a shocking wave of subtle jabs and veiled revelations, the disgraced Duke and his longtime companion are speaking out about their treatment by King Charles III and Queen Camilla. From betrayal at Royal Lodge to Camilla's behind-the-scenes power plays, the couple's quiet fury is erupting at last. What they've said, and what they still might, could shake the crown to its core. The royal betrayal. In private circles, the term used is betrayal. After decades of royal loyalty, Prince Andrew finds himself cast out by the very institution he once embodied. Stripped of his military titles in 2022, exiled from public engagements, and now removed from the line of succession in 2025, Andrew believes he has been abandoned by his own brother. He once imagined King Charles III as a steady hand, but now sees only a calculating monarch. The trust is shattered. Sarah Ferguson, Duchess of York, was reportedly blindsided by the decision to remove her from Royal Lodge, the sprawling 30-room estate in Windsor, where she had lived since her 1996 divorce. Though no longer a royal by title, Sarah remained a fixture in Andrew's life, and the lodge was their last shared sanctuary. Friends say she had been given verbal reassurances that her residence would not be questioned. Then, without warning, she received notice to vacate. The betrayal felt sudden and cruel. According to leaked messages between longtime staff, the couple view the move not as administrative, but deeply personal. Andrew reportedly told a friend, "We stood by the firm during its worst moments. Now we're tossed aside like court jesters." He pointed to past crises: Diana's death in 1997, Harry's departure in 2020, and the Prince Philip funeral in 2021, times when he and Sarah held the family line. Now, they feel discarded in the name of public optics and palace cleansing. Sources close to the couple believe the king's actions were not about justice, but about optics. "It's not morality, it's marketing," one insider remarked. With pressure from the press, Parliament, and palace aides, Charles acted decisively. But in doing so, he severed a long, complicated relationship, not just with his brother, but with a woman who once called Queen Elizabeth II her mother-in-law and friend. But in every royal drama, there is a quiet architect behind the curtain, and many believe this one wears a crown. While Andrew blames his brother, others point to the Queen Consort. Camilla, now fully ascendant, has long cultivated power behind palace doors, and her influence, silent but strategic, may have been the final push behind Andrew and Sarah's fall. The public sees Charles's face, but insiders whisper, this was a Camilla move through and through. Camilla's rising power. Those closest to the crown say Queen Camilla didn't shout or scheme. She simply placed a mirror in front of the king and asked him what legacy he wanted. Palace sources describe her influence as quietly relentless. During closed-door meetings in Clarence House and later Buckingham Palace, she urged Charles to define his reign not by sentiment, but by strength. The first target, the family's most controversial figure, Prince Andrew. The Queen, some say, had waited 2 decades for this. Tensions between Camilla and Sarah Ferguson run deep. The animosity dates back to the 1990s, when both women navigated royal life under vastly different terms. Sarah, married into chaos, remained loyal to Princess Diana even after her own scandal. Camilla, long cast as the other woman, eventually rose from scandal to sovereignty. Their paths rarely crossed warmly. Staff who worked at Kensington Palace in 1994 recall cold glances, clipped words, and an unspoken rivalry. That frost never melted. Camilla's mission, according to insiders, has been to declutter the monarchy. She pushed for tighter circles, streamlined patronages, and a more polished public image. She believes the future of the crown lies in discipline, says a former senior aide. That meant removing the problem prince, no matter the fallout. Sarah, once Diana's confidant and the only royal to speak openly about her support for her ex-husband, became collateral damage. The message was simple: no place for liabilities. Yet Camilla has kept her hands clean publicly. She has not spoken Andrew's name in interviews. She does not respond to veiled digs in Sarah's memoirs or public appearances. But behind closed doors, she has reportedly reshaped Charles's approach to crisis. He listens to her more than he listens to anyone, one palace source revealed. In the story of Andrew's exile, Charles signed the orders, but it was Camilla who sharpened the pen. But while Camilla moves in silence, Sarah does not. Her fury simmers just below the surface. Loyal to the end, yet left behind, she's chosen a different path, one of carefully controlled defiance. She may not attack directly, but she doesn't need to. In speeches, interviews, and books, her words sting like coded telegrams. Camilla may be queen, but Sarah refuses to be erased. Her public voice, once dismissed, is rising again, and this time, every sentence is loaded. Sarah Ferguson speaks. Since the announcement of her Royal Lodge eviction, Sarah Ferguson has made a series of appearances that royal watchers describe as strategic. In a January 2025 interview with a French magazine, she spoke of loyalty unreciprocated and being cast out by those I once defended. While no names were mentioned, the context was unmistakable. To those who knew, this wasn't an interview. It was an indictment, a warning shot cloaked in elegance. Her public tone is one of resilience, but her subtext is fury. At a February 2025 book launch, she described herself as someone who always stood by the father of her children, even when it wasn't easy. The audience applauded politely, but palace aides took note. In those words, many heard a direct contrast to Charles's cold expulsion of Andrew. She wasn't just defending her ex-husband, she was redefining loyalty on her own terms. In recent weeks, Sarah's charity appearances have taken a turn. She now avoids events linked directly to the firm, and several UK-based organizations quietly ended their partnerships with her following renewed scrutiny around Andrew's past. She blames the palace. "They could have protected me, even distantly," she reportedly told a close friend. But they chose silence. While Andrew bears the weight of scandal, Sarah feels she's been punished simply for standing beside him. Her public silence on Queen Camilla is perhaps the loudest statement of all. In multiple interviews over the past 6 months, she has referred to King Charles, to Catherine, even to Anne, but never once to the Queen. It is not oversight. It is protest. To Sarah, the woman who rose in Diana's shadow will never be family. And in refusing to acknowledge her, Sarah continues to fight the battle for loyalty, legacy, and the right to remain visible. Andrew's quiet revolt. Though stripped of titles, banished from duty, and erased from the line of succession in November 2025, Prince Andrew refuses to disappear. Those close to him say he has entered a state of controlled rebellion, never overt, but deeply defiant. He continues to occupy Royal Lodge, well past the agreed April 1st, 2026 move-out date, claiming legal loopholes and undefined terms in the lease. Staff say he walks the estate daily, head high, as though nothing has changed. Privately, Andrew remains convinced he has been sacrificed, not for justice, but for politics. He frames the Epstein scandal, including the £12 million settlement paid to Virginia Giuffre in 2022, as weaponized shame, a crisis the palace used to reinforce Charles's image as a reformer. In recent private conversations with former aides, Andrew has allegedly described the king's actions as a public hanging in slow motion. His sense of victimhood, while unpalatable to the public, is very real behind palace gates. The most alarming whispers are about a manuscript. Sources say Andrew has been writing a private memoir, one that tells his version of the scandal, the cover-ups, and the firm's internal politics. He believes he has nothing left to lose, one insider said. The book, reportedly nearing 80,000 words, includes emails, calendar logs, and unfiltered accounts of meetings with senior royals. While Andrew has not confirmed its existence, courtiers fear the threat is real and growing. Despite media silence, Andrew maintains ties with several sympathetic journalists, many of whom owe him past favors from his trade envoy days 2001 to 2011. Small leaks have already surfaced. Favorable portrayals, strategic reminders of his past military service in the Falklands War, 1982, and rumors about internal royal fractures. These aren't coincidences. They are calculated. Andrew may be disgraced, but he's not gone, and he has no intention of leaving quietly. And as the prince clings to the crumbling walls of Royal Lodge, the building itself has become a battleground. More than bricks and mortar, it represents legacy, defiance, and the last stand of a man the monarchy once erased. But Andrew wasn't alone in that fight. For years, Sarah Ferguson made the lodge feel like home. When she finally stepped away, everything began to unravel. And with her departure, Andrew faced not just exile, but isolation. Royal Lodge Showdown. For over 2 decades, Royal Lodge was Andrew and Sarah's unlikely kingdom. Separate lives lived under the same roof, post-divorce, but still united by routine, dogs, and family history. The 98-year lease, granted in 2003, was once considered ironclad, but in mid-2025, the Crown issued a directive: vacate. Andrew stalled. Lawyers were summoned, but the tide was already turning. When Sarah Ferguson decided to leave voluntarily in February 2026, it marked the collapse of their last shared front. Palace aides say Sarah's decision stunned Andrew. Though they had maintained separate bedrooms and lives, her presence gave his exile shape, a strange kind of dignity. When she announced her move to a private residence near Ascot, Andrew reportedly shut down for days. The optics were devastating. She was moving on. He was not. Her departure triggered the next wave of pressure from Buckingham Palace, with utilities reduced, staff reassigned, and a final eviction date reissued: May 15, 2026. In a rare intervention, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie attempted to mediate. Beatrice approached Prince William's private secretary, seeking a compromise, perhaps a grace period, or a smaller royal property nearby. Eugenie appealed to Princess Anne, hoping for diplomatic sympathy, but neither succeeded. The decision had already been made. The lodge would be reclaimed, refurbished, and reassigned, likely to a working royal or as an archival facility. The final holdouts of the old order were being cleared. Andrew's relocation to Sandringham Estate, far from London, far from influence, is seen as a symbolic exile. The same estate where the 2025 fire tragedy occurred now houses the man who once dined with billionaires and diplomats. No more Range Rovers, no more royal aides. Just a man in a house, haunted by power once held and the silence of a family that left him behind. But Andrew and Sarah weren't the only ones caught in the crossfire. Their daughters, long walking the tightrope between royalty and normalcy, now found themselves caught in an impossible bind. Raised in privilege but outside the direct line of power, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie now faced a brutal truth. Silence protects the crown, but it erases the past. And as their parents fell from royal grace, they were forced to choose: remain loyal or remain visible. The princesses push back. On the surface, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie have remained dutiful. No interviews, no criticisms, no viral statements. But behind palace walls, the strain is visible. Beatrice, now a vice president at a tech firm with deep ties to Middle Eastern investors, has distanced herself, both geographically and politically, from the scandal. Eugenie splits her time between the UK and Portugal, focusing on charity work while raising her sons. Neither princess uses their HRH titles in public. The signal is clear. The family fracture has taken a toll. In March 2026, a resurfaced image of Beatrice at a 2011 Epstein-attended party reignited social media backlash. Though she denied any memory of the event, the damage was done. Major brands paused partnerships. Eugenie's work with the Anti-Slavery Collective faced renewed scrutiny, with critics questioning the optics of her message against her father's past. Privately, both sisters were devastated. Publicly, they said nothing. Insiders say both daughters feel torn between duty to their father and survival within the firm. Eugenie reportedly told a friend, "We're expected to act like nothing happened, but everything has changed." Beatrice, more measured, has kept communication with Prince William's team, hoping to preserve future royal engagements, particularly around digital inclusion and youth tech. But the palace has kept them at arm's length. Association with Andrew is radioactive. The monarchy's new era has no space for ambiguity. Even among their own generation, the divide is widening. While William and Catherine have stepped into the spotlight as the monarchy's future, Beatrice and Eugenie have become the quiet shadows of a royal past. They remain princesses in name, but not in influence. And the further their father falls, the dimmer their place in royal life becomes. The silence may protect them, but it's also erasing them. Inside the crown. Behind closed doors, King Charles III was methodical. His decision to strip Prince Andrew of succession rights, titles, and royal lodge was not rash. It was timed. Advisors say he waited until after Queen Elizabeth II's passing in September 2022, knowing she would never permit such an action during her lifetime. By early 2025, with his reign firmly established, Charles moved, armed with legal opinion, public support, and Camilla's counsel. The removal was less a punishment, more a calculated purification. Parliament had been murmuring for months. The Epstein case, though legally settled in 2022, refused to die in public memory. A confidential report from Cabinet Office, delivered to Clarence House in November 2024, warned that the monarchy's refusal to sever ties with Andrew was viewed by 62% of Britons as institutional hypocrisy. Charles understood what was at stake. One man cannot be allowed to infect the entire institution, he told aides. The Epstein scandal was more than a personal shame. It had become constitutional rot. Queen Camilla's influence was again evident. Courtiers noted that she and Charles met with legal counsel more than 9 times between January and May 2025. In every meeting, her stance was unwavering. Protect the crown, not the comfort. While Charles bore the guilt of brotherhood, Camilla brought strategic clarity. The monarchy, she argued, could not be rebuilt on rotten foundations. Charles eventually agreed. The final decision came during a private retreat to Birkhall in June 2025. Andrew would be removed. Officially, legally, completely. Prince William's circle welcomed the move. For years, William had refused to appear publicly with Andrew, quietly instructing his team to avoid scheduling overlap. Now, the line was drawn. It was necessary, a senior Kensington Palace aide said, not just for the crown, but for the next generation. With the House of Windsor now under new management, loyalty would be defined not by blood, but by behavior. But even as Charles solidified power, one ghost refused to stay buried: Diana. The late princess's legacy remains the single force capable of challenging Camilla's authority. And in Sarah Ferguson, Diana's confidant and ally, resistance still flickers. This isn't just about property or protocol anymore. It's about 2 eras of royal womanhood. And though Diana is gone, the battle between her memory and Camilla's reign is still unfolding, quietly, symbolically, but unmistakably. Camilla versus Diana's legacy. To the public, Queen Camilla stands tall, crowned, composed, a fixture of Charles's new monarchy. But behind palace walls, the war with Diana's legacy remains unresolved. Sarah Ferguson, once exiled herself, still draws from that emotional well. She doesn't attack Camilla outright, but palace aides say her presence alone remains a living echo of Diana's memory. Every refusal to say Queen Camilla, every sidestep in interviews, is deliberate. The old loyalties never died. They've just grown quieter and sharper. Camilla and Sarah embody conflicting archetypes. Camilla is the survivor, the woman who outlasted scandal to claim the throne. Sarah is the loyalist, the ex-wife who stayed loyal to Diana, to Andrew, and to the idea of family over duty. In the 1990s, the 2 women never bonded, and that frost has endured. Their very existence in the same royal narrative irritates the palace equilibrium. Staff say Sarah's mere mention still tightens Camilla's jaw. The coronation in May 2023 was a turning point. For Camilla, it was the moment she shed the title of consort in public perception and became queen in her own right. But for Diana's supporters, it marked the final insult. Protesters outside Westminster held signs reading, "There's only one Queen of Hearts." Sarah was not invited to any official balcony appearances. For many, it felt like a cleansing of Diana's lineage and her loyalists, a full reset of royal memory. Prince Andrew and Sarah now appear like relics of that vanished era. Figures forever tied to Diana's world, now erased to make way for Camilla's. But that erasure is not total. Royal watchers note that Diana's shadow still looms over Charles's reign, limiting his emotional reach. And should Andrew or Sarah ever speak openly about Diana, about Camilla, about what they were told and by whom, that legacy war could reignite with fury. For now, they remain silent. But the tension is unsustainable. Whispers of a memoir, a tell-all, or even a bombshell interview are growing louder. Andrew feels betrayed. Sarah feels erased. Together, they hold decades of secrets, letters, and royal history. And while loyalty has kept them quiet, desperation could break that silence. If either speaks, the consequences would be irreversible, not just for Charles, but for the very institution he is trying to purify. What Andrew and Sarah could still reveal. Inside Royal Lodge, long before he was forced out, Prince Andrew kept boxes of private correspondence. Letters from Queen Elizabeth II, early legal memos about the Epstein case, and even draft statements the palace never released. According to insiders, he believes this archive proves he wasn't acting alone, that palace officials were aware of more than they ever admitted. These aren't just papers, they're leverage. And if made public, they could burn what little trust remains between Andrew and the crown. Sarah Ferguson, too, has a story to tell. Her past includes countless conversations with Diana, late-night calls with Prince Philip, and her own exile and return to royal favor. A publishing insider in London claims she's had memoir offers for years, some in the £2 million range. Thus far, she's declined anything explosive. But with her future uncertain and her financial ties to the palace severed, that calculus may be shifting. One well-placed editor says, she's one heartbreak away from going full Meghan. There are rumors of a major interview, a televised sit-down in the style of Oprah's 2021 special with Harry and Meghan. So far, nothing confirmed. But friends say both Andrew and Sarah are deeply aware of their ability to disrupt. They've been quiet because they thought there was still a place for them, one former aide said. But if that door is now shut forever, what incentive is left for silence? The threat is not loud, but it is real. The most dangerous revelations wouldn't just expose scandal, they'd expose hypocrisy. If Andrew has proof the palace coordinated responses or that key figures, including Charles and Camilla, greenlit certain strategies, the fallout could be catastrophic. And if Sarah chose to speak about Diana, her fears, her allies, her private views on Charles's second marriage, it would reopen wounds the monarchy has barely closed. One well-timed interview could shatter the illusion of unity. And they know it. The palace remains watchful. Communications teams monitor every whisper, every leak. But the greatest threats to the crown aren't enemies. They're exiles. As Andrew and Sarah stand outside the gates, stripped of privilege, they still hold the one thing the firm fears most: the truth. And truth, once told, cannot be untold. The question now is not if the rift will widen, but when. And when it does, it won't be a scandal. It'll be a reckoning. Will the royal rift explode? The public may think the drama is over, but inside palace walls, aides are bracing for aftershocks. King Charles III has consolidated power, removed the rot, and crowned a new image alongside Queen Camilla. But the price is clear. Andrew and Sarah are wild cards now, unbound, resentful, and increasingly isolated. No longer insiders, but no less royal. Their very presence is a reminder that the crown, for all its polish, is built atop fracture lines. Beatrice and Eugenie now walk a tightrope, raised to respect duty, but pulled by loyalty to parents now considered toxic. Eugenie's foundation work continues, but donors whisper. Beatrice, once seen as a modernizing royal voice, now finds herself at arm's length from official duties. They have not spoken publicly against the firm, but their silence has its own echo. The younger royals, including George, Charlotte, and Louise, are watching, and they are learning what loyalty costs. Sarah, now fully removed from Royal Lodge, has retreated to writing and philanthropy, but not forgiveness. Her speeches emphasize resilience, but the resentment lingers. She has lived through royal exile before, but this time, she says, it was coldly orchestrated. Andrew, living under discreet surveillance at Sandringham, rarely appears, but insiders say he still meets with lawyers, still considers his options. His silence is strategic, not surrender. The crown has survived many scandals, but it has rarely faced this: a battle between family and institution, between loyalty and legacy. As Charles seeks to secure the monarchy's future, he may have created its most dangerous threat from within. Because silence buys time, but never peace. And some betrayals don't start wars. They finish them. The silence is over, but the fallout is only beginning. Andrew and Sarah, once sidelined and silenced, are now the royal wildcards with nothing left to lose. As Charles and Camilla attempt to tighten their grip on the monarchy, whispers of memoirs, interviews, and royal secrets grow louder. Loyalty has fractured, legacy is under siege, and the firm's carefully crafted image may soon face its greatest reckoning, not from the outside, but from two voices it tried to erase.